Welcome to the Wake Up Call Network. This is the Perky Collar radio and TV show, and I'm your host, David M. Frankel. And today, my first guest is Daniela Kelly. Daniela, can you hear me?
I sure can. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for being our guest today, via telephone.
Thanks for having me.
In Connecticut, right?
I sure am. It's freezing here.
Yes, well, you can keep it. We don't want it down here. We're filming in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we purposely send the north winds up to Connecticut just for you.
Excellent. Thank you.
My pleasure.
My early Christmas gift.
Exactly. It'll keep coming for you, too. So it's not a one-time gift. It's an ongoing gift.
It's the gift that keeps giving.
It is. Until February. Then you can just send it back.
Maybe March.
Maybe March, that's true. Maybe longer. Well, I really appreciate being on the show. I think a lot of listeners as well as viewers of the show want to know what you're doing. You're the co-founder of Rise Ruffery, formerly Ryan's Barkery. And I'm sure many are thinking,
yes.
Hey, I think I saw them on Shark Tank. And that's the number one thing I hear is like, I think I saw you on Shark Tank. Like, well, no, I wasn't good enough for Shark Tank. But Daniela Kelly was. So Daniela, tell us about Rise Ruffery, and we'll talk a little bit about Shark Tank as well.
Absolutely. Rise Ruffery was actually co-founded by my then 10-year-old son and myself. He started baking dog biscuits because he hated the boys. I have 3 boys, and they used to fight over who would give the dog a treat. We got a new puppy, and they would argue over who would give the dog a treat because the oils would get on their hands and it would smell so bad that Ryan, of course, being the little, entrepreneur, busybody that he is, started making his own. And quickly realized he could monetize this endeavor and started selling them, where he was discovered by some Shark Tank talent. And they asked him to be on the show. I mean, it was a much longer process than that, but that's essentially how it happened. The labor of love.
Very nice. So you made all the Ryan's Barkery, or Rise Ruffery, it's now called, from your kitchen? You made it yourself, or did you have a manufacturing plant, or how'd you start?
Well, we have a manufacturing plant now, but it didn't start that way.
Did it start in your kitchen, or where did it start?
Yeah, it started in our kitchen, and even after we were on Shark Tank, we were several months after our Shark Tank airing in our kitchen.
Wow,
crazy.
That's incredible. So tell us about the journey. You had the open audition. Is this the same as it is now? Like I did an open audition here in Charlotte in April, and then I got a call back a couple of days later allowing me to do a video and fill out a bunch of paperwork. And then I was supposed to have a call with the producer and then filming in LA. How was your process, the same or different?
Our process initially started out a little bit differently because of Ryan's age. He was 10 at the time.
Okay.
I guess somebody who had been frequenting Ryan's little card table where he was selling his treats at dog adoption events, they called Shark Tank and said, there's this kid in Stamford, Connecticut, and he'd be perfect.
Daniela, are you still there? Audience, we tell our guests, make sure you have a good connection before we call you.
Yes, you
Oh, hello?
Yes, you're back. Is this that good connection? Is this that good connection you're telling about? Daniela?
I'm sorry, I live in Connecticut. This is the best I can do.
No worries. Pull over! I feel like I'm doing Eddie Murphy stand-up comedy now. Woo, 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 woo!
Sorry.
Pull over! You ever seen Eddie Murphy Raw?
I sure did.
Okay, that's a reference for you right there.
Sorry.
There's no charge for the comedy, folks. This is all for educational purposes only. All right, Danielle, so tell us where you left off. So they discovered him at an event, and then what?
Yes, and they called me,
okay.
and they initiated the process of, interviewing Ryan and talking to myself, and then the process from there was essentially the same as yours, was, the paperwork and the phone calls with the producers and the video segments that we were sending in, almost weekly, and then we got the call to fly out to Los Angeles. It was very last minute. I think the call came in on a Friday, and we had to, I had to pack up Ryan and the dog and be out there on Monday.
Wow, that's definitely short. And then how long was the experience when you were there? I've been told it's like a 2 or 3 hour interview process. Was that how long it was for you? Are they giving you mercy because Ryan's only 10?
We were in the tank about an hour.
Oh, that's not too bad. I've heard some other horror stories of 2 or 3
No.
hours and ended down at 10 minutes, which is a little more challenging.
Yeah, no, but you remember, we had a kid and a dog.
Right. That's a good tip.
You know,
Bring a kid and a dog when you get an
there
audition.
weren't too many financials to go over. There wasn't essentially more than the discovery of what's going on with Ryan and how he founded this company. And, I let him take the reins because the company was his, and he really, I didn't want to influence them and have them think that I was running his business because I was facilitating it, but for sure it was his.
That's awesome.
And so I really let him take the lead on all the questioning, and worked out perfect.
That's excellent. And obviously, being in front of the Sharks for an hour, even 10 minutes, is intimidating. How did he handle it at 10 years old?
He handled it a lot better than most adults I know, for sure.
I agree with you.
I think with kids, they don't come with that innate fear of public speaking. They don't come with that fear of being questioned. And they really weren't mean to him. They were trying to find out more, but they weren't really snarky with him. There were a few comments that were passed. But most of them went over his head. He really, he did great.
That's excellent. So Mr. Wonderful wasn't there. Is that what you're saying?
He was there. He told him to go buy a motorcycle and quit school.
Yeah, that's always good advice. So who did you end up getting a deal with?
We partnered with Barbara Corcoran.
Very good. Excellent. And how has it been working with her, and how much growth have you seen since joining forces with Barbara?
Ryan received an investment of $25,000 for 25% of his business.
Okay.
And working with Barbara has been amazing. She is definitely a woman of her word, and she values her entrepreneurs more than their business and more than the money that they make. And, not that she's not interested in that, but there's definitely her priority as the person.
That's excellent.
And it couldn't be more evident than her partnership with Ryan. She is just wonderful to him and is a great mentor to him and a great partner to him, and she's just great.
That's excellent. And again, he's 10 years old. So imagine what this young entrepreneur is going to be like when he's 25 years old or 50 years old. He'll be the Mark Cuban of the next Shark Tank.
I hope so.
Yeah. But he is going to pay for his own college. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about, right?
That's true.
That's a nice benefit for sure. So what advice could you give our listeners, our people watching on television, if they're entrepreneurs or thinking about leaving their full-time job, they have a great idea, hey, if a 10-year-old kid can do it, I can do it, right? I mean, is that the message you deliver, or what advice would you give them?
Yeah, it's interesting that you ask, because Ryan actually does a lot of public speaking, and his speech is essentially about letting go of your fear and trying something new and not being intimidated and throwing your whole heart into it. And even though it's on a different scale than most other people, you only go around on this life once, and I would encourage anybody to take that advice. I haven't regretted it, this ride along with my kid, for 1 minute. It's been the craziest, most fun, incredible learning experience of both of our lives.
I bet. So tell me this. What's the secret sauce? Where to get this entrepreneur drive from? It come from you, your husband, an uncle, a brother, a grandfather? Who in their family gave them this drive, this passion for entrepreneurship?
It's my father.
Okay.
It's my father. And it's kind of interesting you asked that, because we got the dog because my father had just passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And I needed something a little happy in the house. And I said, this dog these kids have been talking about for all these years, I think maybe it's time to think about getting that dog. And I have to say, the dog found us more than we found the dog. And he's just been in the light of our lives ever since he came into our house. And so Ryan definitely gets it from my dad. And Barbara took us on a working vacation on an annual retreat that she does with her Shark Tank entrepreneurs last year. She took us to Cabo San Lucas.
Wow.
So we were on our way to film an update. And we were meeting all the entrepreneurs, and the film crew was there, and all the producers were there, and it was a fantastic time. And Barbara said to me, go make sure you get the product. I want all the products in the shots, because I want to make sure we get the placement and people can see your product.
Right.
when I went to go get the product, I found in Ryan's bag my father's fishing hat that he gave him before he died. They used to go fishing together. And I was so struck by this that I went back and said, Ryan, you know, I saw Nono's hat with the treats. And he said, you know, Mom, I pack it everywhere I go. Wow. He said, I feel like he's with me.
That's fantastic. Did he wear it in the photo shoot?
Yeah.
He should wear it in the photo shoot.
Yeah.
That'd be
I don't
great.
think Barbara would let him wear it.
That'd be a great tribute. But it's great that he's able to feel connected that way and feel like his grandfather's with him in that way. That's fantastic. I always tell people when someone loses a loved one, there's never the right thing to say, but I always say find a way to honor that person each and every day of their life, moving forward. And it's always a tough thing to figure out what can you do to honor that person, but it sounds like the hat is a great way you found to honor your father. And I'm sure looking down, he's incredibly proud of what you've done and the entrepreneur's grandson that you're raising. And it's just a great tribute to him, and the fact that he now has a chance to deal with Barbara Cochran on a long-term basis and have a great business as a 10-year-old. How old is he now?
He's 16.
He's 16 now. Okay, so he's in high school.
Yes, he was on the season 4 finale, so it's been a few years since he aired.
That's great. So where are you now? And I'll wrap up here shortly because I know you have a 6 o'clock meeting. What is he doing now? He's 16 years old. Did he spend a good amount of time, obviously in school, but is he spending so many hours a week on Rise Ruffery now, or is it, how's the, what's the time
it changes
allocation?
week by week, and I'll say that, the packing of the boxes and the day-to-day grind of the business, I'm handling most of that because of his crazy schedule. He's in school full-time, and he is also doing a lot of public speaking. He's definitely on the public speaking circuit. He, travels the country.
Wow.
He speaks to youth, he speaks to adults, he speaks for chambers of commerce, he is traveling the country, and that has really become his passion. Not just his passion, but really what the takeaway is from all of that is how he can share this with other people, how he can encourage other people, how he can explain his story, and how other people can relate to parts of it. So it's been a real great he learns from others and they learn from him. It's a nice exchange.
That's incredible. So I assume his name is Ryan Kelly, correct? So I see his picture on a billboard here in Charlotte. Yeah. He's coming to do some public speaking. I'll know the connection. Well,
absolutely.
That's incredible. Tell me, show me one moment which times were really tough for Ryan's Barkery. Maybe it was having to change the name or a point where you ran out of inventory. Give me a story where you just really struggled and wasn't sure it was going to keep going, but you persevered and learned a very valuable lesson.
Yeah, changing the name was a very rude awakening, because here's this, this cute little kid and his cute little dog and this adorable little business and their pictures on the front of the packaging, and all of a sudden we get, this offer to be in Target, this big Target promotion that they've got for 6 Shark Tank companies, and we were chosen as one of them.
Wow.
So, big deal, right? We're preparing for this big launch, and we're getting everything ready to be served 2 cease and desist letters from 2 different companies, one that owns Ryan's and one that owns Barkery.
Wow.
It was deflating. It was a welcome to the entrepreneurial world. We don't care if he's 10, and we don't care if he's cute.
Right.
Change the name.
And this is after you're already on Shark Tank, correct?
I'm sorry?
Was this before Shark Tank or after Shark Tank?
Oh, no, this was after Shark Tank. I guess they had seen it, and, we thought about it for a whole second before we decided let's change the name. Like, why are we fighting this fight? This is all, this whole business entrepreneur thing is hard enough. Like,
exactly.
This is the easy part. We could change the name, and yes, it was a big kink in the plans, and yes, it was time-consuming, and yes, it was expensive. Was it the end of the world? No, it wasn't.
Right.
You just got to push past these things, because stuff like this happens every day on bigger and smaller scales, and entrepreneurship, you never have 2 days that are the same, and that's just the nature of it. It's the definition of it. So you either roll with it or you don't, and we chose to roll with it.
Excellent. What a great role model you are for your son. I'm very honored to have you on the show today, and I know you have a meeting that starts in 5 minutes, so I'll wrap it up here. Again, I appreciate Daniela Kelly for being my guest today. She's the co-founder of Rise Ruffery, formerly Ryan's Barkery that you saw on Shark Tank Season 4. And we'll be right back. Welcome to the Wake Up Call Network. This is the Perky-Call radio and TV show, and I'm your host, David M. Frankel. Please help me welcome my first guest today, which is Melinda Smith, and she's the founder of Balance and Harmony 360 Squared. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. So tell our listening audience and our viewing audience, what is Balance and Harmony 360 Squared, and how does it work, and kind of why did you get involved with it?
Well, one of the biggest aspects that I'm working on right now is called the Complete Guide for Balance and Harmony, and it focuses on finding ways to simplify life, being able to be more organized, streamlined, balanced, and being able to step back and look at life with a 360-degree perspective.
Okay, so help me understand the process. Like, how do you begin the process? I don't want to give away your formula, obviously.
Right.
But how do you get started with something like that? Obviously, everyone has a complex life. Everyone's got crazy things going on. Especially if you're watching this over the holidays. You're busier now than you are at any other time of the year. So what's our first step in organizing the madness?
Well, the first step is being able to stand back and think about where you want to go.
Okay.
And where you're at. And my process will take you through a systematic process to get there. So it gets you to start slowing down and thinking about what is it that you really want.
Okay.
And
so
then
prioritizing, I guess.
to prioritize and really to be able to get a crystal clear picture. I use something called a balance box, and it gets you to think about your life externally and internally. Because a lot of times what happens is we think about what we want, but we're never really quite sure how to get it.
Okay.
Or we're unsure of our own impact in making that happen or keeping us from having that happen. So it really gets you to start answering a lot of questions.
Excellent. So we hold ourselves accountable, and I think it's important to force yourself to prioritize things.
Yes.
Because I know every day I have a list on my Google Calendar of all things I have to do, and it's really hard to prioritize at the very beginning of the day, but that's how I function. And I think a lot of people struggle with, okay, I have all these things to do, or they don't have a list at all, and they just run through the day and like, oh my gosh, there's 10 things I didn't do. I can't believe I forgot to do this, and they have guilt. Right. And that adds to the whole challenge of getting through life and juggling things. So help me understand, what inspired you to start this? Were you juggling a crazy life and said there's got to be a better way, or did you know people that had trouble juggling in life, or what inspired you?
Well, it started about 14 years ago.
Okay.
I've owned the company for 14 years, and I was a teacher, and life was definitely crazy. I was an at-risk teacher, so I helped students that were at risk of dropping out of high school. And I was talking with another teacher, and she was equally stressed, and so she kept talking about everything that she was balancing and all of her fears and concerns. And so we started talking, and the more I talked, she's like, oh my gosh, I should do this for a living.
Right.
And so that was kind of the beginning. She actually came down with stage 4 cancer a few months later, and that was in August, and by March she was gone, had left a 5-year-old at home. And so that was, coming home from that funeral was like a big aha moment, and I was like, it's going to change right now.
Right.
So I told my husband I was going to quit, and I was going to do this full time, and when he picked his jaw up off the floor, I haven't looked back.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we could look back and say cancer physically killed her, but stress probably was
a
the
huge,
one that kind of got her in that cancer mode to begin with.
It is, and we are a society that is constantly trying to find quick fixes, and we're constantly trying to, instead of being preventative, we're always, trying to fix it when it's, sometimes too late.
Right.
And it can be devastating if you are not taking care of yourself and your sanity and your stress level. And it goes so much bigger than just a to-do list, because it's more about thinking about the bigger things. Because if you ever ask anyone at the end of their life, what they wish they did more of, never is it, oh, I wished I would have worked more, or I wished I would have, put in those extra hours at the office. It's usually experiences and relationships and, really loving life. And those are things that you can't always put a price tag on. So it's more than the to-do list.
Sure. It's trips they never took.
It is.
This place they wanted to go, they never had a chance. Just bucket list, so to speak.
It is. And it's family members that they've never really connected with on maybe a level, because we always say we'll do it tomorrow.
Right.
And for most people, tomorrow never happens.
So I'm sure a lot of people watching and listening, they're like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I put in my 70, 80 hours a week. to build this legacy, to build this big company, I'll play later. But sometimes, like that teacher, playing never comes later. They're taken way too quickly, too soon. So how does your program, let's see the program, you brought it here today, show the audience what it looks like, how it works.
Well, there's actually 8 pieces to it.
Okay.
And there is a book, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that love to read books.
Right.
And I know there's an equally large amount of people that are like, oh, I got to read a book.
And look at great books, too.
Yes. So this one it's a very systematic process. It is very short chapters, and it's not really a book about reading. It's a book about doing. So I really, it is. I don't want you to get to the beginning and go, okay, I got to race through this book and get it read. It's about taking it slow and really asking some deeper questions, which is what the workbook will kind of force you to do, is to really think about some of those deeper questions, and where am I at, and where do I want to go, and why do I do the things that I do, and then it starts getting you to think about, what are I talked about the balance box before, and this may be a little bit hard to kind of show you, but there's also a balance box that is very similar to a vision board, because a lot of times people have a lot of trouble being able to picture. They can't tell me what it is they really want. And if you don't spend time thinking about what it's going to look like, you'll never know when you get there, and you don't know what you're working for. So the visual will help you start describing it in a picture. And the balance box also goes internally, because unfortunately we are usually our own worst enemy. And if we don't ever look at some of those behaviors that keep us from being successful, then the external goals never happen.
So it's a combination of short-term and long-term goals? But with visual images to go with them.
It is. It's really about, because a lot of times people get overwhelmed because they want to do something, like they want to write a book, or they want to, maybe do something different in their career or their business. You have to have that end goal in mind. But what the book does is it says, okay, here's your end picture. This is what it's going to look like. But then how do I get there? And that's what the whole rest of the program is really about. It's about getting you to create that picture, and then step back and create it in small, break it down into small manageable pieces. So all of a sudden it doesn't seem overwhelming. We start talking about, once you get to the focus journal, we start talking about what are you doing every day that's making that bigger picture a reality. And it also has you look at, I have something called an energy map. And this is the part that really gets you to think about, there's more than one thing in life. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, is we're so focused on the wealth and the prosperity that relationships suffer, their health suffers. It's exactly what we've been talking about for this interview. So this gets you to look at 9 integral areas of your life. And the focus journal, as you're going through it, will really get you to start balancing that even though life may be crazy in one of those areas this week, not really going to make a big significant on the bigger picture if it just is 1 week. But what happens for a lot of people is 1 week turns into 2, which turns into a month, which turns into a year, and it's the bigger things. And then there's also a what is on your plate. A lot of times people are so...
the bigger size?
No, but it is split between work, home, and you. And what happens with a lot of the entrepreneurs...
The size, like right here.
Yes. Well, what happens is the work and the home tend to take over. And for a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, the you part is like non-existent. And that goes back to really thinking about what makes you happy. What is at the end of your life are you really wanting to appreciate? And a lot of that comes from the you part. And that's easily to neglectful.
I'm guessing too, just coming from a married perspective, I bet you if you had the husband fill out the what's on my plate and the wife fill out what's on my plate, you have some incredible dialogue about what the husband thinks should be on his plate, what the wife thinks should be on his plate, and so on and so forth. This could almost be a relationship tool as well.
It could. And some of my favorite clients are clients I have both husband and wife. Because a lot of times that's another reason why things don't happen, is because everybody thinks the other person is going to do it, and they don't. And so it gets someone on this end of the spectrum and someone on this end of the spectrum, bringing them together and saying, what is our bigger master plan, and then working through, how that's going to get achieved and how it's going to happen. And so instead of talking about it, we're starting to do.
Making plans.
The focus is on the do part.
Is there a plate for the kids too, or just the adults?
Well, the kids fall under the home part.
Okay.
So
I mean, I want my kids each to have a plate of their own.
Oh yes, yeah.
Because they have to contribute as well. And that's one of the big challenges is at what point can you add things to their plate? My wife and I have this discussion all the time.
Right.
What should an 8-year-old be able to do? What should a 4-year-old be able to do? What should an 11-year-old be able to do? What should a 14-year-old, 15-year-old be able to do? A 17-year-old? And she grew up in which she had a lot of responsibility because she was the oldest.
Right.
I was also the oldest, but I was a boy and my mom did most of it for me.
Right.
So my focus is, hey, get good grades, do your sport, and as long as grades are good, life is good. Now, obviously, if you can do the dishes, you can take out the trash, that saves other people from doing it. But it's interesting to hear what parents think of their kids should be able to do at certain ages. My kids do their own laundry, they do the dishes. They're very independent. I mean, they could be independent adults right now.
Right.
But at some point, at what age do you start teaching those type of skills? And I think it also
never
determines
too early.
what's on the plate.
Right.
But I don't want to overburden them either. I want them to enjoy their childhood.
Right.
So it's such a fine line of
It
what's
is.
teaching maturity, what's teaching responsibility, and what's being overly burdensome for an 8-year-old
Right.
or an 11-year-old.
Well, there's nothing worse for children of having too much responsibility or no responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely,
A blend.
and even as adults.
Like, go play outside.
Yeah, because it's hard for them to function as adults if they've never learned the process. And I think, we have a lot of adults that, maybe did not have responsibility early enough. And so this type of stuff is very hard for them because they never had to manage responsibility.
Right. I'm sure some of those men that are out there watching the show, they're still living at home with mama and you've already graduated college. This is you. You need to have a bigger plate when you're younger. You wouldn't be living with mama anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you found that to be true or not, but I know of several cases in that situation. But
Right.
it seems like the women have more on their plate growing up and they have more responsibilities and tend to be, once they leave the house, they're less likely to come back home.
Right.
Us guys, I put myself in that same boat that, once I left my house, I never went back.
Yeah.
But that's because my parents moved across the country, so it made it a lot harder for me to go back. It's just important, I think, to have those commitments and have those responsibilities and be able to step up and be your own person and be responsible for all the expenses that you have on a daily basis and so on and so forth. So what else is in the box? There's still
And
more things.
the last thing is
It's like an
just
endless box.
transfer
I know you guys
cards.
can't see the inside of the box, but it's pretty exciting.
The last one is the transfer cards, and this really, because the whole program gets you to think about how can I balance work, how can I balance home, how can I balance you. And so these cards are reminders. I take you through a transformation process in the second phase of the book, and these are just reminder cards as you get to work on the work, the home, and the you part.
Okay, so that comes to our kind of our big question of the show. How do you balance, and I'm sure all of you listening and watching, that's the word of the day, the phrase of the day. How do you balance work life and your personal life in a way that everything's harmonious? Is there a secret recipe? I know it's in the book, and I know I don't want to give away any secret sauce, but is there anything, just advice you can get, one tip to the listeners out there that could help them better balance their work and their personal life? Because I think everyone struggles with it, myself included, being an entrepreneur, having a business, having kids, having a wife, and everyone wants me to do everything, but I also am committed to my business because that's what pays the bills.
Right.
So how do we juggle it all? How do we balance it?
Well, I'm going to answer that in a twofold question.
No problem. I'm writing it down. I suggest you guys write it down as well.
The first one is that you have to realize you have a choice.
Okay.
And I think sometimes we forget how much of a great country we live in, and we do have choices. And we have, for most people, probably too many choices.
Right.
So just keeping an open mind of saying, this is my choice, and not feeling like you have no choices at all. Because a lot of times we want to think we don't have a choice when everything is a choice. You have a choice about where you work. You have a choice about what you do every day, where you go, how you spend your time. And that is huge, to realize that you have a choice. And once you can understand that, the biggest thing that you can do is write your plan down. And you have been told that for centuries now.
Write your plan.
And people still refuse to write it down. When you start writing down a plan,
like a business plan?
Not
or just a personal plan?
Just a plan
Okay.
of where do I want to go. I mean, it goes back to the balance box and creating that picture. You have to, people just want to just keep on getting on the hamster wheel, and they just keep going around and around and around. They convince themselves they don't have any choices, and they just keep going on the hamster wheel. You have to stop the hamster wheel. You have to set your plan and say, this is my priority. And remember, it's about choices. You know, you can't do everything today. So simplify, make a choice about what is really the big thing in life. If a big thing in life for you is to spend more time with your children, then you may need to do radical things and really think about where you live, how you spend your money. Because people can live on this much money and they can live on this much money.
Sure.
So again, it's your choice whether you want the fancy cars, whether you want a more expensive home, whether you want to work 70 or 80 hours a week, if you want to work less. So a lot of times it's about choices.
So would you say a lot of marital issues and relationship issues come down to people weighing different choices? They just can't come together?
I would say that's a big part of it, but even bigger is probably the lack of communication.
Okay.
Of not being open.
The choices they want to make?
Well, just about the choices and the things that they want in life and being able to come together.
Okay.
That if you're in a relationship, each person has to make 2 steps together.
Right.
You know, you can't expect one person to come all the way, and communicating about what are those hopes and dreams and being able to come together with that and then be able to form a plan based on that.
Very good. And I think everyone listening and watching understands what they need to do. Now the question is, what are you waiting for? Start doing it, right? 2018 is around the corner, and no better time than a New Year's resolution than to take steps to think about the choices you're making, think about the choices you want to make in 2018. Obviously, fitness is always a big one in 2018. Every New Year's resolution involves getting fitter, getting healthier. But commit to your plan, write it down, and that way you can hold yourself accountable.
And find accountability if that's an issue for you.
You can find an accountability partner that
Right.
can hold you accountable. Like, see, you wrote down. You better
And the
stick to it.
nice one doesn't always help.
That's true.
The ones that say, that's okay.
It's a little plug for personal trainers out there.
Yes.
Make sure you're accountable to your fitness goals. Now, tell all of our listeners and viewers how they can get a hold of this incredible transformation program, the Balance and Harmony 360 Squared. How can they find the program?
You can go to www.balanceharmony.com, and I have a store
You do.
on my website, and they can order it from there.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back to the Perky-Call radio and TV show. I want to thank Miss Melinda Smith for being here today and educating all of us so we can have great New Year's resolutions involving balance and harmony in our life in 2018. Hopefully it'll lead to a healthier life, just being more balanced. And I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Wake Up Call Network. This is the Perky-Call radio and TV show. I'm your host, David M. Frankel. This is Nefertiti Justice, and she's the founder of Hippie Conquest and, if that's not enough, Education for Liberia. Welcome.
Thank
Nefertiti,
you.
how are you?
I'm awesome, and how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. So tell us about, we'll start with Hippie Conquest first. Tell us what it is, how that was your passion, kind of why you started.
Okay. So Hippie Conquest, what it's about is, I always consider myself a hippie. And what the idea of a hippie is not wanting to be constrained or confined to no rules, right? Even though we all have to follow rules. So I started Hippie Conquest more of a venture, a blog that I started on YouTube. And it's an inspirational and fashion blog. But what we focus mainly is the fact that we live in such a branded world, right? People are obsessed with all logos and brands. So what we do with Hippie Conquest is we bring all your top-notch brands to you for $1 to $20. So I mean, Gucci, Fendi, any brand you can really think about, we have it at Hippie Conquest. And we sell it to you for whatever price you want because we believe that you are the brand. That consumers should not, merchants should not dictate as to what we spend. So it's kind of a one-person venture to kind of tap us out of the conscious world of not being so branded. What are we really paying for?
Okay.
So if things are brought to you a little cheaper, it helps you save money. And like I said, it just gets you to be debranded as a person.
Okay, so I know the audience is now coming a little close to the television.
Right?
And let's turn the radio up a little bit and say, okay, how do I get name brands for $1 to $20?
Yes.
What's the secret sauce?
Okay, so
if you can tell us. If you can't, we understand. But if
wow,
sauce,
you know certain secrets.
hold back.
Certain secrets you do have to keep back, right? But it's all brand new clothes. So like I say, it's just we go to different warehouses, we go to different places that carry these branded clothes for their regular price, and we purchase it, and then like I said, we bring it to you for that price. And believe it or not, I'm always up to be tested and people to see the honesty or the transparency within the project. So this Saturday, actually from 4 to 8 p.m. at 2615 Central Avenue, we're having our first Christmas pop-up sale. And so everybody on your Christmas list, and like I said, the holidays, as ironic as it sounds, that's the time people are more depressed. They're more lonely, and it's usually because of monetary. You can't fulfill everybody on your Christmas list. So like I said, we bring these things to you, and this Saturday, we're encouraging everybody to come by and buy everything on your Christmas list for little or nothing.
Wow.
Yes.
So is your business model similar to like a Marshall's or a Ross, where you're getting name brand things but at a much more affordable price?
Definitely.
It's a very similar business model.
Yes, definitely. And like I say, even cheaper than Marshall and Ross. And I do love me some Ross and Marshalls because it's the same. It's the same idea that clothes and things that we need should not cost that much for our bare necessities.
Makes sense. So how did you start this? Where did this all begin?
So I had a birthday not too long ago, and
thank
you. I'm in the club 30s now, and with that being said, it was kind of like me reevaluating life. I was definitely an overly branded person myself, and there was stress levels that came with that, and keeping up with personas and all that. So I was like, you know what? If I can help somebody to tap out of that and let them know, don't waste your money on tangible things that after you wear it, the value is depreciated. The moment you buy it at the store, the value is already depreciated. So it's kind of like, I love to talk. So I'm like, okay, I blog all the time, so why not turn that into a venture, kind of talking to people who feel they're overwhelmed by these things and let them know, no, you can save money. And so it's just how it started blogging, and then one friend was like, well, this is awesome, keep doing it. So that was just like my aha moment to like, this is going to resonate with somebody. It makes sense.
Sure. I think, what age group would you say is the most pressure? I would think having kids from preschool into college, it seems like middle school and high school seems to be the years of most pressure to buy brands. And you have the bullying, you have all these different things that happen to you if you're not wearing the latest brand.
Of course.
Have you found that most of your customers are buying for their middle school and high school kids, or is it for themselves as adults? Who's your number one customer right now?
Believe it or not, my number one customers are adults. There are so many adults who are like, it's about time somebody talks about this, right? And they come, they buy stuff for themselves, and sometimes they do get it for their kids as well, because it's kind of wanting to teach them to not make the mistakes they made in their adulthood. Do not become so over pressure, over stress. And I think also too, we need to kind of remind our kids more of the idea of loving your own special, be your own beautiful. And so I think when people come and purchase my stuff, it's always a handwritten note. I sit there and write every card and let them know it's something personable, and now you kind of get to pay it forward. Let somebody else know not to become overwhelmed with bills.
Excellent. Now, how do people find you? On the website or?
Yes. Right now, we do have a boutique that is on Poshmark. It's Hippie Conquest. Also on YouTube as well. Hippie Conquest on YouTube. And the Facebook page right now is Nefertiti Justice. You can find all the stuff that I have as well, advertisement with on Facebook and YouTube and Poshmark.
Okay, and can you give the viewers and the listeners a sense of the variety of things that are offered on your website?
Well, we literally have clothes, shoes, accessory, makeup. I have cute little coffee mugs. I have inspirational quotes. I have one or two friends who've painted and drew real life pictures that they sell there as well. Household supplies. So it's pretty much everything in a nutshell. If you come there, you're able to find something for yourself, your home, your office, your friends, your family, and whomever.
Excellent. And if those that are watching or listening from another part of the country, do you ship out as well?
Well, right,
just locally in Charlotte?
It's nationally right now. So international, we have not. I'm trying to make sure we get everything set for that, but we're not, unfortunately, right at this moment, we're not shipping internationally, but everywhere within the Americas, we are shipping.
Okay, very good. So what's the, what's the greatest find that you've had so far? a product that you know is worth a lot more than what you had to pay, and you could tell how excited the customer was to buy it, or you said, no, I'm keeping this for myself.
Right.
So this was truly a diamond in the rough. Give us an example of a great find.
Okay, so a great find I found last year was at a flea market in Boston.
Okay.
And I went there because I grew up north in New England, so I went back home to visit, and I went to this flea market, and I really found brand new Christian Louis Vuitton red bottom shoes.
Nice.
Brand new. And secret is, I guess I have to say, it was only $10. And I went and took it to the city in New York to get it, like, you know, to make sure it was authentic, it was real, the serial number. Everything came back 100% real. And those were the tan peep toes. And last summer it was going for $1,200.
Wow.
I got it for 10 and I sold it for $500.
Wow.
So when the lady bought it, she was beyond ecstatic because it's like,
right.
Exactly. And then of course the cliche that goes with red bottom and all that. But I was really happy she was able to get it for almost $1,000 less than if she was going to get it from anywhere else. So those are the moments, those are the things I really love to find things like that really blows people's mind. That let them know, yeah, you can find ways to save money.
Did she send you a picture of her wearing those red bottom shoes?
No, she did not,
I make that a requirement.
Stacy, please, I'm asking you, if
please.
you're watching or listening, please.
This is an appeal.
It really is.
Radio and TV.
Yes, please send us a photo of that red bottom shoes. I'm sure you look amazing in it.
Yes. Seeing is believing. We need
Yes.
a photograph or something, a short video of you wearing those shoes.
We appreciate that.
And you could be our poster child for
Of course.
Hippie Conquest.
Yes.
So let's move on to your other baby, which
Yes.
is the Education for Liberia.
Yes.
How did that begin? Why did you start that?
Well, I was born and raised in Liberia, West Africa. And growing up in West Africa as a female, there are one or two choices that you have to make when you grow up. You either become a market woman or you become a rich man's wife. Okay. And none of those things were my ideal about life. So fortunately, I was able to come to America at an early age. But in 2011, I went back to Liberia, and I was there for 5 months and a half. And with Education for Liberia, what I realized being in Liberia, it was 85% illiteracy rate in my country, and that just really blew my mind because I'm like, that's a whole nation dying. The kids didn't have school supplies, they didn't have adequate enough classrooms, materials, just nothing, really just there. So when I went, I decided, I said, okay, I'm going to work along with the Ministry of Education to come up with a plan to implement a scholarship program. But of course, with back home, certain things didn't work out. So when I came back, I decided with Mr. Stephen Tamba and Kenry Wright, we decided to merge and start Education for Liberia. And what we do is every year we pay 60 students tuition for them to go to school, different schools of their choices, and we pay their tuition. So they're in the scholarship program where they have to do community service. We have to make sure we get their report cards every semester. We have programs with other schools in America where they send letters and stuff to the students, and we get school supplies shipped back home. So it really is my baby because, like I said, it's my way of giving back to my little country and letting them know that I may not be able to take you out of Liberia, but I can give you something that can make you communicate with anybody in the world, and that's education. So I live, I breathe, I'm obsessed with Education for Liberia. And right now we have 160 students in school, and we're so excited about that. And we just purchased the land, so right now we're in works of building the library back home, very technology-wise, because that's where the world is headed. And my country is the #3 poorest country in the whole world. Wow. So it's kind of giving back to them and letting them know, regardless where I'm at, I always feel connected to home.
That's fantastic. Now, the listeners or viewers at home, they want to help your cause. How can they help you?
We have our website that's up. It's www.educationforliberia.org. Okay. And we have all the pictures of our students, their progress report, different pictures and ventures that we do when we go back home. And everything is 100% transparent. We have a donate button on there. We have stories of the students because we're all humans. People gravitate to what they feel. So we have stories, and with that, we allow whoever wants to help to pick the student that they want. Right. To help and to feel close to. Yes.
That's very good. And how long have you been working on this process with Education for Liberia? It's been going on
it's been
several years? Or?
Since 2012. We got our 501c3 nonprofit license February of 2013.
Okay.
Yes, so since then we have been steadily working on there. We had a company that donated 18 brand new laptops to us last week, so we're going to put
Fantastic.
that in the library.
Should we give them a shout out as a thank you?
Definitely we had emailed them, but they're more anonymous and they don't want us.
Okay.
Yes, but it's a big company in Charlotte, but we have said thank you, and for that everybody else can help, whether it's $1 or a notebook, a pencil, or crayon, whatever school supplies to help these kids, because I'm telling you, there's a whole nation that is dying, and with you and me, we can help save a nation.
That's fantastic. Do you have an idea of how many people you've helped since 2013?
We have our first 25 students graduate that was in school from 9th grade. Now they graduated about 3 weeks ago, so we're excited about that. Thank you. And right now we have 160 students, but we want to increase that by 60 more. Okay. And to send a child to school for the whole year is only $60, 60 US dollars. And those schools we send them to, we provide breakfast for them, lunch, and a little going home packet, because most of them, their parents don't have money or anything like that, so we give them something to take back home with them daily. So right now we have 160 and we're trying to increase it by 60 more, so that's what we're trying to advertise and do everything we can right now to make sure those 60 students are able to start school by the 3rd of March.
That's excellent. And how is nourishment in Liberia? I know I spent about a week and a half in Haiti after they had the earthquakes. I think it was back in 2000, let's see, my daughter's 9. It had been 2008, I guess it would be.
Okay.
And I was just amazed at how impoverished people were and how they appreciate us just being there. We brought a lot of donations, a lot of feminine products and towels and tarps and just essentials.
Of course.
But a lot of them were malnourished. And you really saw that in all the orphanages we worked with. How is their nutrition in Liberia? Is it as bad as Haiti? Is it equal to Haiti?
Well,
and how can you help with nourishment? Because obviously when you have nourishment, then you can study and learn a lot better.
There we go. And that's why, like we said, the school, well, the nourishment is about not as bad as Haiti, I would think, right? But I could be wrong. But there are a lot of children, because Liberia has went through 15 years of civil war. And even right now, we had an election in November that everything is at a standstill. They're still not able to decide who the president is. So now the government's being sued, but I'm not here to run no political campaign by no chance. That's another show anyway. Right, definitely. Sure. But kids do need food. It's a dire need for food because it's our bare necessity. So like I said, when we do Education for Liberia, we make sure these schools are providing them food so they can eat and food to go home with. Because like you said, if you're hungry, ain't much of nothing you can really do. And definitely studying is not one of them. And then most of the kids have to make the choices, either help their parents on the farm or go to school. Right. So yes, to help feed. But the country is poor overall, and that has to do with all the infrastructures that mix up a nation, and that's nourishment, that's food, clothing, and all everything within that trickles down.
Well, and I applaud you as an entrepreneur to do something. It's easy for us to complain. It's easy for us to say, well, let someone else handle it. But you've decided to take the bull by the horns, as they say, and help.
Yes.
Not just one person, not just 10 people, but an entire community, entire country.
Of course.
Which is fantastic. So give our viewers, in wrapping up, give our viewers, again, the website for Hippie Conquest, as well as Education for Liberia. So if they want to help, they have the tools to do so. Especially this holiday season, when there's so many people in need all across the globe. And you've heard about Liberia and what their situation is. And if it touches your heart, maybe you're from Liberia, have family from Liberia, maybe you can find a way to help as well.
Of course. Once again, there's someone, you are loved. I'm asking anybody, everybody, somebody who's watching this or listening to this, if you have a heart, and I know you do, for Hippie Conquest, you can always find us on YouTube, where Hippie Conquest is, or on Facebook, Miss Nefertiti Justice, or on Poshmark, Hippie Conquest. Now, for Education for Liberia, to help all those kids in need, to save a nation, please visit www.educationforliberia.org. And you are loved.
Thank you so much. Nefertiti Justice, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Again, you're watching the Perky-Call radio and TV show. And we'll have the show every week for you on the Wake Up Call Network. Tune in next week for another fantastic episode. See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.